The new headquarters of the ILPH in Norfolk is the nerve centre for their expanding worldwide operations. One of their principles of accurate and unemotional reporting has contributed to the standing they have today. Throughout the United Kingdom, field officers report on the developments in their respective areas.
We're going at the moment to the RDA centre at Mould. When I first came to the centre here, I had reservations because not only are some of them physically disabled but equally mentally disabled, and the combination of the two I found quite distressing at first, and it was only after a few weeks that I recognised and realised the amount of benefit that these people gained by actually being in contact with horses. We're going to have a look at a horse called Jubilee, who is a weight carrier, and he's very important to welfare work. Unfortunately, the RDA Centre are losing this horse, and we will be looking to rehabilitate one of our horses as a replacement for Jubilee. Hello, Liz. How are we? All right?
Hi, Norman. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, fine, thanks. How's Jubilee?
He's fine. They're just getting him ready to do his ride now.
Oh, great.
Liz Rawlings is the manager of the RDA Centre at Mould.
Hello, Jubies. How are we? All right? There's a grand lad. What a shame we're going to lose him.
Yeah.
How long have we got?
Got him for about another 3 months, and then his owner wants him back again.
Right, I shall keep my nose to the ground, and I'll get all our contacts, and hopefully we'll be able to replace him before he actually goes.
Hope you can.
Yes. A normal day as a welfare officer, it's so diverse because we can be at the Riding for the Disabled group on one morning, followed by a sale in the afternoon. The welfare of horses at markets legislation was introduced in March of 1991, and this lays down minimum requirements for providing welfare for horses when being sold in markets, and we're here to make sure that those regulations are strictly enforced. Hello, Neil. How's things? All right?
Not too bad, thank you.
Any problems? There are various other welfare organisations that attend the markets on a regular basis, and obviously the RSPCA, the Horses and Ponies Protection Association. Both of these organisations are represented at Beeston Market. We get a tremendous amount of cooperation between both of these groups, and obviously this is for the benefit of the horses.
We just generally check on all the conditions of all horses coming in. We also check on the way they're being brought in, and we check the way that they're being shown around the market. We work in conjunction with the police, the ILPH and HAPA to make this a multi-agency affair. We do regular transit checks here. Sometimes the International League gets involved, and we would also take prosecutions out if necessary.
The problem with the horse trailer was that it was in such a poor condition. There was rotten wood on the floorboards, that it would have been absolutely dangerous to transport any form of animal. And the RSPCA inspector gave him an official warning that if he transported livestock in that vehicle, then he would be reported. He has arranged for a hire to take his animals away from the market.
Mixed reports had been reaching head office about the plight of the Lipizzanas caught up in the conflict. Some reports stated that many horses had been killed, that those remaining alive needed evacuating, and that there were casualties requiring immediate veterinary assistance. So ILPH Chief Executive Colonel George Stephen and Jeremy James drove out to Croatia to find out what the situation was. The Lipizzana stud at Lipik was an empty shell. The question was, what had happened to the horses? There were stories of how some horses had been ridden out under gunfire and escaped, but others had not. How some had been hidden locally, and others had been stolen and were now in Bosnia. In any event, it was clear that although too late for Lipik, there were other studs, and help was imperative. A joint collaborative project was set up between the ILPH and the BHS. Their aim was to take a horse box loaded with veterinary and other supplies across to a location on the Hungarian-Yugoslav border. Provisions were packed at the ILPH headquarters and at Cherry Tree Farm, the ILPH Rehabilitation Centre in Surrey.
The initiative for this mission came from the International League for the Protection of Horses. The request for the British Horse Society to participate was received. It went to committee, and the committee agreed wholeheartedly.
The 48-hour journey was to take them across the Channel from Dover to Calais, then from France into Germany, through Austria, Hungary, to the Yugoslav border.
We're now about 150 kilometres from Munich. We've been on the road 24 hours, just over 24 hours. We will make up base camp towards dusk this evening, and then we shall contact Norfolk. Hopefully we will be then able to get directions where we will rendezvous with our agent.
As the team drove further on, communications became more difficult. Contact had already been made with the Jakova stud, and at a rendezvous with Jeremy James, plans were finalised.
In fact, we've got to get going. Well, we're in the war's end. There was a lot of fighting through here.
So a meeting was set up with the stud owner on the road to Vokova.
It's not a bad photograph, but it's a pretty shut-up house, yeah?
Nobody arrived. The team had to wait patiently, hoping that nothing had gone wrong. Eventually, at 2 p.m, the ILPH and BHS team transferred their supplies in secret. Any filming of the operation would have jeopardised the mission. However, we do know that a number are now safe in Hungary and are in the care of a former groom who was training, before the outbreak of war, to compete in the driving four-in-hand at the Olympics. And this magnificent grey is not, however, a Lipizzaner. This is Dewdrop, a portly Highland pony, fortunate enough to find herself not in the fear of killing and war in the Balkans, but with Eileen Gillan and Hamish Lahore at Bellwade.
The ILPH were given this farm a couple of years ago, and then it basically was just a ruined building with 45 acres of ground. And Colonel Stephen came and saw me and said, would we like to try and get the ILPH up and going at this Bellwade centre? So we did, and in the building there we've now got 19 loose boxes and an open courtyard. Should we need to put ponies in here in severe winters or anything, we can put them in a sort of cattle court situation. So we don't envisage that we will ever carry vast numbers of ponies on the place. It's only 42 acres. Maximum stocking capacity any one time is around about 30. The public normally notify us of cases that they're worried about. We get called out and one of my field officers will go and have a look at the equine concerned. And if the people who own that horse, pony, donkey, be what it may, are amenable and agree that we can give it a better life than it's having at the moment, they hand it over to the ILPH. Having got it better, then we find a suitable home for it to go to, where it will be properly looked after, loved and cared for. The ILPH is not a rest centre for horses, and we call ourselves a rest and rehabilitation centre. The emphasis very much being on the rehabilitation side.
This horse is an example of the many cases the ILPH see every day. Dr. Tina McGregor was asked to examine the hoof.
That bit there is known as a laminar prolapse. So where the laminae have got caught in a little space of horn. Because there's so much pressure inside the hoof anyway from soft tissue structures. Put it down a bit. From the soft tissue structures inside. The minute there's any little hole in the horn, then the soft tissue is going to ooze out of it. And then that little piece gets pinched.
Beau was left to the ILPH to be rehomed through the loan scheme, as his owners could no longer keep him. The crack was discovered during the initial examination which all animals receive on arrival. It was considered that surgery would be required to repair the hoof, and this was carried out by Andrew McDermid at the Royal Dick School of Veterinary Studies in Edinburgh, who is one of the vets sponsored by the ILPH. Now, some weeks after the operation, the heel is growing back well, and it's hoped that he'll make a full recovery. Beau's operation was undertaken in a theatre very much like the Animal Health Trusts in Newmarket. Here, equine operations take place every day. This particular one under the watchful eye of Ian Wright.
I'm an orthopaedic surgeon here at the Animal Health Trust, and particularly within the equine clinical unit. So I work solely with surgical conditions in horses. The majority of the animals which come to the trust come for evaluation of or treatment of injuries that they've sustained while they're being worked, either for pleasure purposes or in competitive sports like racing and jumping and the like. So my job essentially is to evaluate and to repair those horses whenever possible.
This operation was to repair a fracture in a knee joint. The injury was caused by the continued pounding of the knee whilst the horse was flat racing. The anaesthetist gives the anaesthetic. This acts quickly and the animal is soon unconscious. The horse is then hoisted up by his legs, as this is the safest way to lift equines, and placed on a special operating table. This particular one was donated to the trust by the ILPH. All this has to be carried out swiftly to ensure that the animal spends the minimum time under the anaesthetic. Just like human operations, the horse's pulse, blood pressure and breathing are carefully monitored.
What we're going to do is to start the whole procedure off. We're going to evaluate this joint arthroscopically, so I'm going to make a little stab incision in the skin here.
Ian places an arthroscope into the knee joint. This tube contains a miniature camera, and by viewing the monitor, he's able to see right inside the joint and examine the fracture.
We've just mapped out the fracture, so these little blue needles in here are marking the two sides of the fracture at the front, and the cream needle that you can see here, which I'm moving on the screen right now, is the sort of line that a repair needs to be effective here.
Ian is drilling into the bone in order that he can insert a screw across the fracture. The compression produced by the screw will encourage the bones to join back together again.
In addition to the main fragment, when these so-called high-energy injuries occur, little fragments of bone will literally explode from the surface of the fracture, and they will be released into the joint, and so we remove those little loose fragments from the joint. If they're left in place, they act like little bits of glass or sandpaper within the joint, and they scratch away at the smooth joint surfaces.
With the small fragments of bone successfully removed from the joint, the wound is carefully stitched and the leg bandaged. Following the operation, the horse will be taken to a special recovery box. As well as helping with the surgical operating equipment, the ILPH also assists the Animal Health Trust by giving an annual grant to the farriers of the trust. These skilled craftsmen produce specialist shoes to treat a variety of orthopaedic problems that occur in equines. They have to produce shoes to fit various sizes of feet, from donkeys to shire horses. The ILPH also helps with veterinary educational grants.
I'm here doing a fellowship, 3 years specialising in equine orthopaedics. It gives me advanced training in working up lame horses, knowing how to treat problems of the musculoskeletal system in horses, as well as lots of other general problems. The fellowship is funded by the International League for the Protection of Horses, and they basically supply all the money to pay my salary and fund my position here.
Prevention rather than cure is fundamental to the ILPH's philosophy, be it through funding research projects at the Animal Health Trust, the monitoring of equine problems throughout the United Kingdom, or their work on a broad international front. The work goes on. The ILPH is working.